Everyone believes that power is something you earn, that strength announces itself, demands to be seen, refuses to hide in shadows. Mira Ashford knew better. For 8 years she'd worn weakness like a second skin, kept her head down in the Silvercrest Pack, accepted the Omega quarters they'd assigned her, endured the pitying looks and dismissive voices. She scrubbed floors in the pack house, served meals to wolves who didn't bother learning her name, and never, not once, let them see what lived beneath her surface. Because the truth was this: Mira wasn't weak at all. She was the daughter of an Alpha, a bloodline so pure, so powerful, that her first shift at 13 had shattered every window in her family's estate. She was fire and fury wrapped in human skin, a wolf so dominant that her eyes had flashed gold before she'd even understood what that meant. And she'd spent 8 years making absolutely certain no one in Silvercrest knew it. Tonight that was about to change. The packhouse kitchen was empty at midnight, which was exactly how Mira preferred it. She moved through the space with practiced efficiency, wiping down counters that didn't need cleaning, organizing spice jars that were already perfectly arranged. Anything to keep her hands busy, her mind occupied, her wolf quiet. It had been harder lately, keeping the animal caged. Her wolf prowled beneath her skin, restless and angry, demanding freedom she couldn't give. 8 years of suppression had worn them both thin, but the alternative, letting anyone see what she really was, wasn't an option, not when Alpha Caden Silvercrest still believed she was nothing. The thought of him made her hands still on the counter. Caden, the wolf who'd found her, collapsed at his territory's border 8 years ago, half dead from exhaustion and blood loss, unable to shift back to human form. He'd carried her broken body to his pack doctor, offered her sanctuary when she'd had nowhere else to go. He'd also decided, in that moment, exactly what she was: weak, traumatized, possibly defective, an Omega at best. At worst, a human who'd been bitten and survived the turn, rare but not unheard of. Someone to be pitied and protected, never respected or feared. Mira had let him believe it, had encouraged it actually, with carefully calculated moments of helplessness. A trembling hand here, a downcast gaze there. She'd learned to flinch at raised voices, to make herself smaller in crowded rooms, to radiate the kind of harmless fragility that made dominant wolves instinctively gentle around her. It had kept her safe, hidden, alive. The kitchen door swung open without warning. Mira's head snapped up, her wolf surging forward before she could stop it. Gold flashed in her eyes for half a heartbeat, before she wrestled control back, forced her gaze down, her shoulders to curl inward. Too late. He'd seen it. Caden Silvercrest stood in the doorway, 6 feet 4 inches of pure alpha dominance, his dark hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. His gray eyes, the color of storm clouds before lightning, locked onto hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Mira." His voice was rough like he hadn't used it in hours. "What are you doing up?" She clutched the dish towel in her hands, playing the part she'd perfected. "Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd make myself useful." He moved into the kitchen, and gods, he always moved like that. Like a predator who knew exactly how dangerous he was, who didn't need to prove it because everyone already understood. Power rolled off him in waves, the kind of dominance that made lesser wolves drop their eyes and bare their throats. Mira had been baring her throat to him for 8 years. "You work too hard." He crossed to the refrigerator, pulled out a bottle of water. "The pack doesn't expect you to clean at midnight." "I don't mind." She kept her voice soft, unthreatening. "I like being helpful." It was a lie. She hated it. The servitude, the invisibility, the constant performance of smallness. But it was necessary. Caden leaned against the counter, studying her with those unreadable gray eyes. He did that sometimes, looked at her like he was trying to solve a puzzle he didn't have all the pieces to. It made her nervous in ways that had nothing to do with her secret. "There's a gathering tomorrow night," he said. "The Northwood Pack is visiting. Alpha Marcus wants to discuss a potential alliance." Mira's hands stilled on the towel. The Northwood Pack, she knew that name, knew their reputation for being ruthless and territorial. She also knew their Alpha had a particular interest in acquiring powerful wolves for his pack. "I'll make sure the guest quarters are prepared," she offered. "That's already handled." Caden's jaw tightened slightly. "I want you to attend the dinner." Her heart stuttered. Marcus mentioned he'd heard we had an Omega in our pack. "He's curious." The distaste in Caden's voice was clear. "I don't like the way he asked about you." Of course he didn't. Because Caden Silvercrest, for all his assumptions about her weakness, was a good alpha. Protective. Honorable, he'd never let anyone harm a member of his pack, even one he thought was powerless. It was one of the things that made lying to him so hard. "I'll stay in my quarters," Mira said quickly. "There's no need for me to. You'll attend." His tone shifted, became the voice of an alpha issuing a command. "And you'll stay close to me the entire time. Understood?" Her wolf preened at the protectiveness in his words, at the idea of being close to him. Mira shoved the reaction down, buried it deep. "Yes, Alpha." Something flickered in his eyes at the formal address. He told her 100 times to call him Caden, but she couldn't. Using his name felt too intimate, too dangerous. It blurred lines she'd spent 8 years keeping razor sharp. "Get some rest, Mira." His voice gentled. "That's an order." She nodded, slipping past him toward the kitchen door. She'd almost made it when his hand caught her wrist. Gentle, careful, like he was afraid she might break. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For being here. For staying." His thumb brushed once across her pulse point, and she knew he could feel how her heart raced. "For trusting me enough to let me protect you." The words hit like a physical blow. Guilt twisted in her chest, sharp and merciless. He didn't know, didn't understand that she wasn't the one who needed protecting. That in a room with him, she was the more dangerous wolf. Mira pulled her hand back gently, offered him the smallest smile. "Good night, Caden." His name slipped out before she could stop it, and the way his eyes darkened. Gods. She fled before she could do something stupid, before her wolf could do something she couldn't take back. The next evening arrived too quickly. Mira stood in her small quarters, staring at the dress laid out on her bed. It was simple, soft gray fabric that brought out her eyes. Nothing that would draw attention. Perfect for an omega trying to disappear into the background. Perfect for the lie she'd been living. Her reflection in the mirror showed a woman who'd gotten very good at making herself invisible. Brown hair pulled back in a simple braid, minimal makeup, posture slightly hunched to make herself appear smaller than her 5'7" frame. She looked harmless. Forgettable. Safe. Her wolf snarled in disagreement, rattling against the cage of her ribs. "I know," Mira whispered to the mirror, to the animal pacing beneath her skin. "Just one more night. We can do this for one more night." Except she'd been saying that for 8 years, and they both knew it was a lie. A knock at her door made her straighten. Coming. Caden stood in the hallway, and the sight of him stole her breath like it always did. He'd dressed for the occasion, dark slacks, a button-down shirt that did nothing to hide the powerful build beneath it, his hair styled back from his face. He looked every inch the alpha he was, and the way he looked at her when she opened the door. "You look beautiful." The words were quiet, almost surprised, like they'd slipped out without permission. Mira felt heat rise in her cheeks. "Thank you, you clean up well yourself." A smile tugged at his mouth, the kind that was rare enough to feel like a gift when it appeared. "Ready?" "Not even close." "Yes." He offered her his arm, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. The contact sent electricity racing up her spine, made her wolf surge forward with interest and approval. She forced the animal down, focused on keeping her breathing steady as they walked through the packhouse corridors. "Remember," Caden said quietly as they approached the dining hall, "stay close to me. Don't let Marcus or any of his wolves separate you from the group. If anyone makes you uncomfortable, you come to me immediately." The protectiveness in his voice did things to her chest, made it hard to breathe. "I will. I mean it, Mira." He stopped just outside the dining hall doors, turned to face her fully. "These wolves, they're not like our pack. Marcus doesn't value weakness the way he should. He sees it as something to exploit." She almost laughed at the irony. If Marcus knew what she really was, he wouldn't see weakness. He'd see a threat. A prize. A weapon he could use. "I'll be careful," she promised. Caden's hand came up to cup her cheek, and the tenderness of the gesture nearly broke her. "I won't let anyone hurt you." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning she couldn't afford to examine. Before she could respond, the dining hall doors opened. Alpha Marcus of the Northwood Pack stood in the entrance, and Mira's wolf went immediately on alert. He was older than Caden by at least a decade. His dark hair shot through with silver, his build heavier but no less powerful. His eyes were the color of amber, sharp and assessing as they swept over her. Caden Marcus's voice was smooth, practiced. "So good to see you again, Marcus." Caden's arm moved to her waist, pulling her close to his side in a gesture that was pure possessive alpha. "This is Mira Ashford, a valued member of my pack." "Ah yes, the Omega I'd heard about." Marcus's smile didn't reach his eyes as he offered his hand. "A pleasure." Mira forced herself to take it, to ignore the way her skin crawled at the contact. His grip was too tight, held too long, a deliberate test of dominance. She let her hand go limp in his grasp, dropped her gaze submissively, playing the part, always playing the part. "Come," Marcus said, releasing her hand. "Let's eat. I'm eager to discuss our potential alliance." The dinner was torture. Mira sat beside Caden at the long table, hyper-aware of every Northwood wolf watching her. They assessed her with predatory interest, not sexual, but something worse. They were looking at her like a commodity, something weak enough to be claimed and controlled. If they knew the truth, they'd run. The thought made her wolf bare its teeth. "Your pack seems quite protective of its Omega," Marcus observed, his gaze sliding to Mira. "It's rare to see such special treatment." "Every member of my pack is valued," Caden replied, his tone carrying an edge. "Rank doesn't determine worth." Noble words. Marcus sipped his wine. "Though I've found that in practice, the strong inevitably dominate the weak. It's simply nature." Mira felt Caden tense beside her, his alpha power flaring in response to the implied threat. She placed a hand on his thigh beneath the table, gentle, calming, protecting him when he thought he was protecting her. "Perhaps in your pack," Caden said evenly. "We do things differently in Silvercrest." Marcus smiled, and it was the expression of a wolf who'd found weakness to exploit. "Indeed you do." The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of veiled threats and political maneuvering. Mira stayed quiet, played her role perfectly, all while her wolf grew more and more agitated. Something was wrong. She could feel it in the air, in the way Marcus's wolves kept watching her, kept exchanging meaningful looks. They were planning something. When the meal finally ended, Caden excused them quickly. He kept his hand on the small of her back as they walked through the pack house, his body angled slightly in front of hers, protective without being obvious. "That went better than I expected," he said once they were alone in the hallway. Marcus seemed to accept. The emergency alarm shattered the quiet. 3 sharp blasts echoed through the pack house, the signal for a territory breach. Caden's entire demeanor changed in an instant, the social alpha replaced by the warrior. "Get to the safe room. Now. Caden, now." "Mira." His eyes flashed with alpha command. "I need to know you're safe." She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she didn't need to hide, that she could fight, but years of deception had built walls she couldn't break in a single moment, so she ran. The safe room was in the basement level, reinforced and spelled to mask sense. Mira's hands shook as she descended the stairs, her wolf clawing at her control. "Let me out," the animal demanded. "Let me fight." "Not yet," she whispered. "Not yet." But when she reached the basement, she found the hallway blocked. 3 Northwood wolves stood between her and the safe room, and the predatory gleam in their eyes told her everything she needed to know. This wasn't a territory breach. It was a trap, and she was the prey. "Alpha Marcus sends his regards," the largest wolf said, stepping forward. His smile was cruel, confident. "He's decided your pack's alliance would be more valuable if it included a little insurance." Mira's heart hammered against her ribs. "Caden will be very busy with the fake threat we arranged at the northern border." The wolf's grin widened. "By the time he realizes what's happened, you'll be halfway to Northwood territory. Don't worry, we'll take good care of you." Her wolf erupted with rage, slamming against her control with enough force to make her gasp. "No more," the animal snarled. "No more hiding, no more weakness, no more lies. I'm giving you one chance," Mira said quietly, her voice steady despite the storm building inside her. "Walk away." The wolves laughed. "Or what, Omega?" The leader took another step closer. "You'll cry? Faint? We've been dealing with your kind for years. You're all the same, weak, helpless, completely." Mira let go. 8 years of suppression, 8 years of caging something wild and powerful and furious. It all came crashing out in a single devastating moment. Her shift was violent. Bones shattered and reformed, muscle and sinew, tearing and rebuilding, her human skin splitting to make way for something far more dangerous. She'd forgotten how much it hurt, how good it felt. When the transformation completed, 3 Northwood wolves stared at her in abject terror. Because standing before them wasn't a small, submissive Omega. It was a wolf the size of a small bear, silver white with eyes that burned pure gold. Power radiated from her in waves, the kind of dominance that made lesser wolves whimper and submit, the kind that marked her as alpha-born. The leader of the group stumbled backward, his eyes wide with shock and fear. That's impossible. Mira's wolf didn't give him time to finish. She moved with speed that came from years of suppressed energy, from a predator who'd been forced to play prey for far too long. Her jaws closed around the wolf's shoulder, not killing, but sending a very clear message. Touch me again and I'll end you. The other two wolves fled, their panicked howls echoing through the basement. Mira released her prey, let him scramble away with his tail between his legs. Then she threw her head back and howled, a sound of pure dominance, of challenge and power and fury finally unleashed. The sound carried through the entire pack house, and she knew with absolute certainty that Caden would hear it, that everyone would hear it, that there was no going back now. Her secret was out. Mira shifted back to human form in the empty hallway, her body shaking from adrenaline and the aftermath of transformation. She'd forgotten how good it felt to let her wolf run free, even for just a few moments. She'd also forgotten how exposed it made her feel. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. She barely had time to process before Caden burst into the hallway, his eyes wild, his power crackling in the air around him like lightning. He stopped dead when he saw her. Mira stood there, naked and trembling, her eyes still carrying traces of gold from her wolf's dominance. Blood, not hers, streaked across her shoulder where she'd bitten the Northwood wolf. Mira, his voice was barely a whisper. She couldn't read his expression. Shock, yes, but beneath that, anger, betrayal, fear. I can explain, she started, but the words felt hollow. How did you explain 8 years of deception? 8 years of letting someone believe you were something you weren't? Caden moved forward, and she instinctively took a step back. The motion made his jaw clench. Don't, his voice was rough, commanding, don't run from me. I'm not. 8 years. He stopped a few feet away, his hands clenched at his sides, like he didn't trust himself to touch her. 8 years, Mira. 8 years I've been protecting you, worrying about you, treating you like I was weak, she finished quietly. I know, you're not an Omega. It wasn't a question. You're God's, that power, that dominance. You're Alpha-born. She met his gaze, refusing to look away. If this was the end, if he hated her now, she at least owed him the truth. My father was Alpha of the Nightshade Pack. My mother was his true mate, another Alpha bloodline. I'm what they call a legacy wolf, pure dominant genetics from both sides. Caden's eyes widened. Nightshade. That pack was destroyed 8 years ago. Yes. The memories threatened to surface, but she pushed them down. I was the only survivor. I ran for days, injured and unable to shift back. By the time I collapsed at your border, I'd been in wolf form for almost a week. Why didn't you tell me? The hurt in his voice cut deeper than any claw could have. I would have protected you. I would have asked questions I couldn't answer. She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly aware of her nudity but unable to care. About who destroyed my pack. About why they wanted me dead. About the power I carry. Caden pulled off his shirt in one smooth motion, closing the distance between them to drape it over her shoulders. The gesture was so gentle, so caring, it made her throat tight. Tell me now, he said quietly. Tell me everything. So she did. She told him about the Nightshade Pack, about being groomed from childhood to eventually lead, about the night rogues had attacked, not random violence, but a coordinated assault designed to wipe out her entire bloodline, about watching her parents die, about running until she physically couldn't anymore, about being 13 years old and more powerful than wolves 3 times her age, which had made her a target. I was going to tell you, she said, her voice breaking. When I turned 18, I planned to reveal everything, but then you looked at me with such relief, such gratitude, that I wasn't dominant, wasn't a threat to your pack's hierarchy. You said having a gentle Omega around made the pack feel more balanced. Caden flinched. So I kept hiding, kept pretending, because as long as I was weak, I was safe. No one would want me, no one would hunt me. She met his eyes, and no one would realize that having me in your pack put every single member in danger. That's what Marcus wanted. Understanding dawned on Caden's face. He knew, Somehow he knew what you were. Mira nodded. Legacy wolves are rare, valuable. A pack with one in its ranks has a massive advantage in strength and dominance. Marcus has been collecting powerful wolves for years, using them to build his pack into something formidable. He was never interested in an alliance. Caden's jaw clenched. He wanted you. And now he knows I exist. She pulled his shirt tighter around herself. Now everyone knows. The weight of that truth settled between them. 8 years of safety, of invisibility, shattered in a single moment of transformation. I should leave, Mira said quietly. Before Marcus comes back with more wolves, before he targets your pack to get to me. No, the word was flat, final, carrying the full weight of Alpha command. Caden, you're not leaving. He stepped closer, his hand coming up to cup her face. You're not running again, Mira. I won't let you. You don't understand what you're risking. I understand perfectly. His gray eyes held hers, intense and unwavering. I understand that for 8 years you've been protecting my pack by hiding, that you've sacrificed your true self to keep us safe from whoever destroyed your family, that you've been carrying this burden alone, because you didn't trust me to help shoulder it. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone, catching a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. I understand that I've been an idiot, he continued, his voice rough with emotion, treating you like you needed my protection when you've been the one protecting us all along. I lied to you. You survived. He rested his forehead against hers, and I'm not letting you go. Not now, not ever. Mira's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying that Marcus made a mistake tonight. Caden's voice dropped, became something dangerous and possessive. He threatened what's mine. He tried to take my. He stopped, seemed to struggle with the words. He tried to take you. I'm not yours, she whispered, but it came out like a question. Aren't you? His hand slid to the back of her neck, gentle but firm. Haven't you been mine since the moment I found you? Since I carried you into my territory and swore to keep you safe? That was before you knew. It doesn't matter what I knew. His eyes flashed with alpha gold. It matters what I feel. And I've been fighting this for 8 years, Mira. Fighting the pull toward you, the need to be near you, the way my wolf claimed you as ours. The second I caught your scent. Her heart stuttered. Your wolf recognized his mate. Caden's voice was raw, honest. I told myself I was being protective, that it was an alpha's duty to care for the vulnerable members of his pack. But that was a lie. He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. The truth is I've been in love with you since the beginning, he said. With your strength even when I thought it was weakness. With your courage, even when I couldn't see it. With everything you are, Mira. All of it. Tears streamed down her face freely now. I don't deserve. You deserve everything. His voice turned fierce. You deserve a mate, who sees your power and celebrates it. Who stands beside you, not in front of you. Who trusts you to protect yourself and the pack. Caden, stay. The word was a plea, a command, a prayer. Stay and let me prove I can be that mate. Stay and help me protect this pack together. Stay and be what you were always meant to be. What's that? My Alpha. He smiled, and it transformed his face. My partner, my everything. Mira's wolf surged forward with approval, with joy, with recognition. Mate, the animal whispered. Finally, she grabbed the front of his shirt, pulled him down to her. The kiss was explosive, 8 years of denial and longing, and suppressed emotion pouring out in a single devastating moment. Caden groaned against her mouth, his arms wrapping around her waist to pull her flush against him. She could feel his wolf rising to meet hers, could feel the bond between them snapping into place with the force of fate. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were pure gold. Mine, he growled. Yours, she agreed. But Caden will face whatever comes together. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. Marcus, the rogues, anyone who tries to hurt you or this pack, we face them as partners, as mates, as alphas. Together, she whispered, and for the first time in 8 years she actually believed it. 3 weeks later, Mira stood on the training grounds, watching Caden spar with his beta. She'd spent the morning running drills with the pack's younger wolves, teaching them techniques her father had taught her years ago, teaching them as their alpha, because that's what she was now. Not Silvercrest's dirty secret or hidden weapon, but their second alpha, Caden's mate and equal. The pack had adjusted surprisingly well. Some had been shocked, yes. A few had questioned why she'd hidden for so long, but most had simply accepted it, had welcomed the strength she brought to their territory, and those who hadn't. Well, Caden had made it very clear that anyone who couldn't respect his mate was welcome to find a new pack. No one had taken him up on the offer. "Your form is getting sloppy," she called to Caden. He grinned at her over his shoulder, breathing hard from the exercise. "Maybe you should come show me how it's done, mate." The words still sent shivers down her spine. "Mate, hers." Mira was about to respond when she caught a familiar scent on the wind. Her entire body went rigid. Caden noticed immediately, abandoning his spar to cross to her side. "What is it, that scent?" She turned toward the tree line, her wolf on high alert. "I know that scent." A figure emerged from the forest, and Mira's world tilted. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the same brown hair and gold eyes she saw in the mirror every morning. Scars covered his arms, and he moved with the cautious grace of someone who'd spent years surviving. "Hello, little sister," he said. Mira couldn't breathe. Lucas. Her brother who she'd watched die 8 years ago, who she'd mourned and grieved and avenged, stood before her alive and real and impossible. "I'll explain everything," Lucas said, his voice rough with emotion. But first his eyes moved to Caden, assessed him with alpha precision. "Is this the wolf who's been keeping you safe?" Caden stepped closer to Mira, protective but not overbearing. "I'm Alpha Caden Silvercrest. Mira is my mate." Something shifted in Lucas's expression. Relief maybe, or approval. "Good." He moved forward, and despite everything, despite the impossibility of his survival, he smiled at his sister. "Because we're going to need all the strength we can get. The rogues who destroyed our pack, they're coming back." Mira felt Caden's hand slip into hers, felt his unwavering support through their mate bond. "Let them come," she said, her voice steady and strong. "I'm not hiding anymore." Her brother's smile turned fierce. "No, you're not. You're an alpha. It's time you acted like one." Caden squeezed her hand. "Together?" Mira looked at her mate, at the wolf who'd protected her when he thought she was weak, who'd claimed her when he learned she was strong, who stood beside her now as an equal. "Together," she agreed. And for the first time in 8 years, Mira Ashford stopped pretending. She stopped hiding. She became exactly what she'd always been meant to be. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed Mira and Caden's story. If you did, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What was your favorite moment? Do you want to know what happens when the rogues return? Should I tell Lucas's story next? Your comments and support mean everything to me and help me know what kind of stories you want to hear more of. I'll see you in the next one.